You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
We are back with another... David, right. Okay, stop. We are back with another art...
I'm sadly very straight.
David, mute yourself.
Okay,
thank you. Now I just feel like shit. Welcome to episode 10 of a Life in Ruins podcast. I am your host, Carlton Gover, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Colin Johnin and David Howe. We are back with another Our Ruined Lives episode. Today, it is just your three favorite cowboys of science talking about contemporary topics in anthropology and archaeology. So, real quick, guys, I have a conversation that I want to start us off on. And David, you had an interesting post recently on ethnocynology regarding horses, did you not?
An interesting post
reply.
Yeah. I made the mistake of saying that horses died out in the Pleistocene and then were reintroduced by the Spanish in the 1500s.
Now, that's interesting that do you label that as a mistake? How come that was a mistake when we have some decent archaeological evidence that would suggest that they did die out in the Pleistocene, but came back with the introduction of the Spanish horses?
Well, I guess to put it bluntly, apparently I'm part of the Western science religious cult that wants to deny an indigenous, the idea that Native Americans had horses before the arrival of the Spanish and that it was a part of their culture. And I guess the way the comment was phrased was that like Western science just wants to shrug things like that under the rug because I'm a white man, and things like that. And like to anyone listening, obviously we're going to get into this, but Carlton, what was your next question?
So I just wanted to like preface. So this whole it was like the last couple of days, or was it a whole week that you're doing these horse posts?
It's been, I think since this past week. I'm going to do it more this week I think too.
So David on his Instagram account, Ethnocynology, posted like a series of posts regarding horses. And in one of those posts, he talked about the topic that we just discussed, and someone commented it was regarding... So,
I guess the way it started, to backtrack, the Instagram account is about the relationship between humans and dogs, but I get at least 3 to 4 times a week, no joke, something about do horses and do cats. I'll eventually do cats. So horses aren't my forte. So therefore I went and researched a bunch of this as much as I could and collaborated with Cassidy Thornhill, who's brilliant from the University of Wyoming. She did her thesis on horses. I posted 1 about horse evolution, and then 2 about the use of horses as food utility in the Ice Age, and then by humans, and then 3 on domestication. And the first post in which I talked about horse evolution, I explained how horses, kind of evolved in North America on the Great Plains, left through Beringia into Asia, and then populated, Europe and Africa. And then I mentioned at the end of that horses died out in the Americas, and I thought the interesting debate on this would come from the overkill debate versus climate, and I kind of left it vague, saying humans arrived in the North America, and about that time all the megafauna died out, including horses. However, they weren't reintroduced until the 1500s when the Spaniards brought them, and I believe what happened was a couple of horses escaped Mexico City or then Tenochtitlan and left and went north, obviously to the American west and the plains, and that's where Native American tribes would have encountered them.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what happened was the Pueblo revolts in New Mexico. When the Pueblo revolted against the Spanish, they let all the horses loose.
Okay, so I think there were multiple times where it happened,
there's a couple. That was the big one, was this Pueblos just released all the horses.
Yeah. So the main thing is horses having evolved here in the United States, or in North America, are completely adapted for this environment. So they quickly took over the plains, and that's why there's this big BLM horse problem now, because they're just so efficient at living here, whereas cows aren't actually from here, and therefore the horses are kind of destroying the land that the cows eat. That's a whole other debate. But what happened in the comments that you were asking about was somebody had said, what about the idea that Native Americans had horses before the Spanish got here? And I said, and I'm going to be honest, I said, well, there's weird people in some weird camps that think that Native Americans had horses, but there's zero evidence of that. And I don't think there's any further research on it. And somebody chimed in, I forget what the name was, about, well, I happen to know people in those, quote, weird camps who believe that. And as an Indigenous person, I don't want to misquote what was said, but essentially saying that I was not, I don't know, you read the comment, Carlton, is where you can take over. And as an Indigenous person, what did you read?
So, Connor, you got to read all these, right?
Oh, I did. I was a spectator from afar. Yeah. So I guess where did her beef come?
So two things happened. Dave, because we're in a group chat together, and David sends us like, how do I deal with this? Because it was outside of.
Do you want me to just read them?
No, we don't need to read them verbatim.
Okay.
I think, yeah. But so a couple things happened. So like David sent me and Connor a screenshot of the post and was like, how do I deal with this? Because anytime someone claiming Indigenous descent or talks about these things, it becomes a completely different conversation. And David asked me to comment because I'm Indigenous.
Actually, and let me just read the very first one, because that would help kind of set this frame, unless we don't want to do that.
No, just read the first one. That should be fine.
I would try to keep the name out though.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first comment to my post was not from this person, and it said, I think it's really interesting how much of their history, horses, was in North America, but all the ones we have here today were brought back over after going extinct. To which I replied, that is truly interesting. And then somebody said to that, is the idea there might have been surviving isolated remnant populations still being explored? To which I replied, not that I'm aware of. There's some weird camp of people out there who say archaeologists don't want you to know that Native Americans always had horses, quote, but I think that's just untrue. And then the response in question is, I think some natives I know are not weird camps of people's Western... Oh, my Instagram just shut off. Here we go. Say it again. I think some natives I know are not, quote, weird camps of people's Western science thinks, unquote, it has supremacy over knowledge. And I think of some folks fighting for the truth. I think there is a weird camp of people who think there is only one way of knowing, only one group of people who can know, and that group of people needs a lot of school debt and letters after their names. So that was the quote in question, and then there was a whole thread after this. So Carlton, you can take over from now.
So David's like, Carlton, can you comment on this? And like, my background is Great Plains archaeology, and I think I'm an expert at this point in that area. Wouldn't you guys agree?
No.
Oh, thank you. So okay,
I don't know enough to say you are or not. I'm not going to deal in absolutes here, but I would say you know way more than I do.
Yeah, and you're studying under Dr. Doug Bamforth, who's done a lot of this plains research and who is connected with these people who've done a lot of work there. So you come from an academic heritage that knows a lot of stuff about this, for sure.
Well, I was hoping you guys to, spike that ball and say, yeah, of course. But now I just feel like
you wrote your thesis in it, and if you write your thesis in something, you are technically the expert at that thesis. So yes, I would say you are an expert in what. Yeah.
Yeah. The article that this commenter was talking about is by Yvette Running Horse Collin. She did a PhD in, I think it's in Alaska. No, it's a thesis PhD, whatever. I'm not sure. It's an indigenous studies. So it's not archaeology, anthropology, whatever. But the point of the dissertation is that horses are mentioned in oral traditions prior to contact. Therefore, horses were here before Spanish contact, and there's indigenous oral traditions to talk about them, and that it's a really anti-Western science perspective on when horses showed up. I've read this thesis in this PhD. She doesn't know anything about, well, I don't want to say that. Like, she has a different aspect, but she's not looking at the archaeological record. The dissertation is like really butting up against Western science perspectives, which is fine.
It needs to happen periodically. But I completely agree. Like, yeah.
Yeah, the United States has the largest quantity of archaeologists, and our archaeological record is one of the most extensively excavated. There are no fucking horses in the archaeological record prior to Spanish contact. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. So all three of our moms have made comments that we cuss too much, so we're trying to tone it down before they come after us. So there's just no evidence. I am very well aware of Pawnee, Arikara, and Wichita oral histories, and we use horses as an indicator for contact. Like my understanding of Plains Indian oral traditions is like none of them talk about horses being here until they're intrinsically linked with the arrival of Europeans. Like no one's claiming this. And that's a problem with some of these theses and dissertation when they're like native knowledge, indigenous knowledge. There's over 570 recognized tribes in the United States. They're not all the same. And like, they're just homogenizing these things. So like preface.
I'm guilty of that myself, but
I am too. But like, these are these perspectives. I don't know what Running Horse's background is. Like, I don't know what tribe she's talking about. It's from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So maybe she's an Alaska tribe, which is everything's fine. So I get on there and I'm like, listen, this is who I am. Let me tell you that there's no evidence for this. And this woman went off on both me and David. She attacked David for saying weird, came after me saying that I have a limited.
Is fair. And I said, I apologize. I should have said fringe. Right. But then she accused me of, or this person, I'm not sure what they identify as, said that I was speaking for all of Western science, to which I responded very logically saying, I don't actually speak for all of Western science. I just speak for the data that I've read, and the data does not support the idea that horses were here. That the data that I read says they died out in the Pleistocene. And then that, I think, is where it kind of rolled off the...
Yeah, it went on to a rant really quickly. I rebutted. I was like, listen, yes, this is my scope is the Great Plains, but I've studied this, and we looked at her background, this individual's background, and they're like a sustainable farmer, and they don't have any real academic knowledge of anthropology, archaeology, which is totally fine. But we were trying to actually like engage with a member of the public, and they were not having it in the slightest. And me and David were both like, I was showing friends. I was like, am I being an asshole here? I mean, a jerk here? And they were like, no, this person clearly does not want to have a conversation. She just wants to rant and rave. And it's like, okay, sweet. So the reason why I bring this up, because A, it's a fun story. And hopefully it sends more traffic to ethnocynology. Well, it probably will. That thing does so well. But like we talk about on this podcast a lot is communicating with the public. And that was one of my first instances online, at least mine, where it was like,
that was the first one that I've encountered that was like, I was like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah. So I think they haven't responded to our last one where I was literally just like, listen, you're conflating both arguments at this point. You're accusing me and ethnocynology of the same thing. And like, we're the ones being civil about this, and you're the one that's not.
Yeah.
And going back, basically, like, what was the term that she ended up, she belittled me, which was fun. It basically equated me to like I don't even know what the proper word for it is. I'm definitely not going to say the word I'm thinking out on air.
Yeah, but like, I don't recall.
What is it, like a house slave or something like that? Basically, like I'm an indigenous person that is brought up in academia, and therefore I've been adopted into the group, and I think like a white man now.
I believe that's what she was inferring. The person was inferring. Yeah, and this is where why I kind of wanted you to chime in is like, as a white male, I don't doubt that Western civilization has completely erased some of the ideas of Native Americans and things like that. And we have, like, there's just an ongoing genocide. However, how would I say this lightly? And by genocide, I mean cultural genocide. It used to be, another different one. It's hard for me to say like, you're wrong. Like I want to say, I understand, like, I totally get your point, but I also like doing science outreach and trying to be as fair as possible, because I'm like very fair with megafaunal extinctions and climate and things like that. I try to present all of them if I can. This is the first time it's come up where I've just been like told like I'm wrong and I'm part of the system.
It was basically like, you're white, you can't talk. It wasn't anything to your credibility or your research. And she did the same with me when I was like, listen, this is how it is. It was basically like, no, you're in academia. You've been brainwashed, and he's white, so he can't talk. And it's just like, how?
Therefore I'm wrong. And it's like, I can't say this person's wrong or I'm wrong, and I just can say, here's the data that I saw, and I collaborated with a good friend of mine on something that she spent years researching. Like, so therefore,
we try as archaeologists. I think it's certainly going in that direction. We're trying to incorporate indigenous knowledge in and trying to help our interpretations of the archaeological record. Like, obviously, Carlton, your thesis is such a good example of that. Using indigenous knowledge to look at the archaeological record and run hypotheses testing on that. And so I understand where that, the throwing under the rug thing, is definitely something of the past. But I think we're trying to, as a discipline, move forward and, incorporate indigenous knowledge into our research because they provide interesting ways to look at the past.
Yeah. And the current president of the SAA, Society of American Archaeologists, is Joe Watkins, and he's indigenous, and he literally wrote the book on indigenous archaeology. And we have Emily Van Alst on episode 3, and she talked about hers. And you can go to any department now, and there's at least one student there looking at indigenous archaeology or archaeology through an indigenous lens. Like, we are so moved away from prior to 1991 when all of that was gone. And we don't see this much with other indigenous archaeologists. I mean, there's some exceptions, but it's interesting because there's hundreds. I think there's probably a couple, 1,000 or so, but there's definitely hundreds of indigenous archaeologists at this point, including TIPOs, tribal historic preservation officers, tribal archaeologists. And what's interesting is they're really silent during these times when these articles that are like, no, white Western science is wrong. So people that come to mind is this article that we were just talking about by Yvette Running Horse Collins. And then another big name is Paulette Steeves does the same thing. And anytime indigenous people who are also archaeologists or anthropologists who don't agree with that immediately get pushed to the level of, oh no, you've just been brainwashed.
It's sticky.
It's weird, dude. It's a hard. It's it's a line that I'm very well aware that I have to toe, because conversely, if I was doing this in my department, saying, "Oh no, you're wrong because you're white," I would get pushed to the extremists. So there's these two. It's kind of like today's political discourse where the extremes are dominating the conversation, and the moderates are being ostracized by both sides and becoming extreme because of that. So it's interesting. But David, no, I love that post, and you did a really good job. It was definitely a great way to start my morning today, waking up to those comments where I was just like, oh no, you're just a little trained dog now. You just bark when the archaeologists tell you to. And I'm just listen, go grow your organic spinach and just leave me alone.
I don't know about that. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll do a post on, I was going to collaborate with Cassidy again on horses in the contact period, which is what she was looking at zooarchaeologically. And maybe I'll do a post on the idea that they were still around, and I'll see what data I can find on that.
Oh, you won't find any. You'll find this thesis, which is I looked at a couple tribes that said they had horses. Let me tell you guys something. Yeah, we'll wrap for a break. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that out loud. Chris is telling us to wrap for a break because we're at the 19-minute mark. So let me just wrap it up. Oral traditions change often to incorporate new information. And sometimes we see, especially with horses, that horses get incorporated to some of these older stories when they didn't exist during then. So think Canterbury Tales. I know that's a weird stretch, but they talk about knights in Greece, but there weren't knights in Greece. Go read the Canterbury Tales. I mean, if you went through 7th grade English, you probably did it. But anyways, so yeah, that was segment 1. I think that went well. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Welcome back. We are in episode 10 of A Life in Ruins podcast. I'm here with the boys and Chris, who's editing us up in the back there. And we just finished our conversation about, or we were talking about indigenous knowledge and Western science and how they kind of go together, and also talking about, public outreach and science communication and kind of the difficulties with that. And David, did you just get are you up to how many followers are you up to these days?
I'm officially at 7,100 and some change right now.
So those are 7,000 people that are maybe archaeologists and might not be, who are actively or are consuming some sort of bit of your content.
Yeah. Interestingly, what I find the most interesting about my account is, one, it went up like 1,000 this week after Ettore Mazza. I'm sorry, he said Ettore Mazza is how you say his name. But he
wait, is he Italian?
Oh yeah, he's super Italian.
I thought he was Japanese.
No, because you thought his name was Hattori, like Hattori Hanzo. And that's just not right.
No, that's definitely not right.
Hattori. But yeah, he made me that.
So
awesome...
it likes some spaghetti.
Yeah, so like back that up and don't do it again. So he made me that painting, and I put it on like a little like the ad on Instagram. Threw like $20 at it, and you can target it to like people who like dogs, people who like bushcraft, people who like just stuff that people would like. And it blew up, and it went all over and got shared everywhere, and I got a bunch of followers from it. But one of my most interesting things about my account is when I did those posts on shamanism and animism a while back. Those posts went viral for some reason and to the top of the Explore page. And I have a lot of like animists and like pagan people that follow my account. And they message me quite a bit. I don't know if it's a lot or like I can't see who exactly the numbers, but message me about my account saying like this is like one of the more interesting accounts I've seen because you like it's not just about I'm selling like jewelry or something like that. You know, it's like I'm giving an educational and constructive like topic or like discourse to something that isn't necessarily represented in a way. And that's cool because anthropology is a way of like, it incorporates all that, right? And then I can like throw some dogs in there and throw some horses in there now. And like people really dig it and it's cool. But yeah, a lot of bushcraft people, a lot of primitive technology people. It's cool. And I get like at least, I'd say 20 to 25 people that message me a week that I kind of have like a regular discourse with, usually just like laughing at the memes or like some people are like, how's your day? And I'm like, it's good.
So in general, are these conversations that you're having, are they like people being interested? Are they asking questions? I mean, how does this discourse actually go in those DMs of yours?
Yeah. So normally it starts by someone reacting to a story, like like a heart face or a laugh face or saying LMAO to something funny I posted. And then it will turn into like just kind of like a friendly, like, how's your day kind of thing like that. And so that most of the time though, it'll start with, how did you get into this? Or like, how do I do this? I've never heard of ethnocynology. And my answer to that is always like, I mean, I just make it up. It's not like ethnocynology is a real thing, but like I'm not the expert in the world on dog domestication and things like that. I just read about it. I'm really interested in it. And I have anthropological training. So therefore I can like feel confident posting about things. And sometimes I'll throw some opinions in there, but I'm usually pretty good about saying if it's an opinion and I'll cite it if it's like a fact. But yeah, those conversations usually start like that. And I'll try to point people in the right direction or like, what kind of books should I read? What do I go to school for? And I'll give them the spiel of like we were talking about with Damien, that I went for history, then ended up doing anthropology, things. So I might be getting off topic there, but I do really enjoy it. And people will always either tell me that they really like to post, especially with these horse posts. I've been getting nonstop DMs this week about like, oh my God, these are great. And I was like, oh, sweet. Cause like people really like horses. So, and it's been fun. Yeah.
I mean, like it seems super interesting because your page, you obviously have citations, you have research that's put into this. But there's maybe, I don't know if that would say more popular, but there's pages out there that are actively spreading information that has not been proven within the archaeological record or the, or any hasn't been proven at all. And it's a breath of fresh air to see yours because I don't normally see. I mean, I see some of it, but not as much well-researched kind of stuff that is on Instagram because you can say whatever you want on Instagram. That's the reality of the platform.
And that's the dangerous thing to me is because like I try to cite, probably a majority of the things I have on there are cited, but you can't I can only fit so much into a post, right? Like a couple hundred characters. And then the spacing is weird. I have to add hashtags and then like I can't necessarily put a full like so-and-so and so-and-so and so et al. Paper in the caption. But I try my best to do it and I'll put it, if it's like a hardcore fact that I don't necessarily agree with or like it's something I clearly didn't come up with, like a number, I'll try to put the little source right next to the thing, like you would in text citations. But then Instagram's weird about the parentheses and spacing and things like that. But what I'm saying is dangerous is anybody can go on Instagram and just take a picture of or steal something from Pinterest, right? And then post about it and then just make anything up and say what they want. Now, I got this from Mark at Evolution Soup. He's dope. You should check him out. It's evolution_soup. Always cites him. And what I was impressed with Mark's account was he always credits the artist, right? Some people will put Pinterest is the artist, and like that's just not right. If I find a picture on Pinterest and I can't find the artist, I try not to post it, except for there were one I didn't, was the one about how dog and human arms are, biologically different. I couldn't find the author for that, but it was from a medical textbook. I figured it was fine. But the dangerous thing is people can say whatever, and then this account that I saw the other day, checking the explore page and looking through other archaeology accounts, because if anyone doesn't know, the way to find archaeology accounts, and I got a message about this today, is just type in hashtag anthropology, type in hashtag
archaeology,
domestication,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
And you'll find at the top of that page like the current accounts that are trending. And I'll look through there, and I saw one on, and I think it was a viral video the other day on Reddit and stuff too. These people moving, like replicating how the Moai were moved into place. So how the people of Easter Island, the Polynesian population, would have moved the Easter Island heads and put them into place, right? And the only way I can explain this is essentially it's wobbling, and there's three ropes attached to it, and one group pulls one way, another group pulls another, and you're waddling it across a landscape, and it eventually places into a hole where it was to be placed. Mm-hmm. And the caption said, and I'm going on a rant here, now, Carlton's going to get triggered here, and let's talk about it. It says, this is how another theory of how the people on Easter Island could have moved the Moai statues. Do you think it's possible? Did they have, how did it say it? Do you think a seafaring civilization came and showed them how to do this, or maybe had extra help and something like that? And
quote,
that's a
aliens.
Cool idea. Right. But that leaves the opportunity open for aliens, and not only aliens, but that also leaves people to believe that aren't, engaged in archaeology this often, that white people are the only ones able to figure out how to build things, right? And people on Easter Island, being brown people who canoed to an island and ate rats, had no idea how to do this. And that's just absurd, because if you look at humans anywhere, we know how to do things, and we are so creative at getting into making new technologies and getting ourselves into trouble. Hashtag agriculture. But there's it bothers me so much that ancient aliens and all these things, like Mayans, how did they build these pyramids? It's too perfect. It's not like Archaeology Gains does a bunch of this. It's just because brown people built it. You're saying that they surely couldn't have done it without European help.
It's
and
the
that's
assumption
just a
that they wouldn't have the knowledge or study any of this stuff, even though they've possibly been living in these areas for hundreds, thousands of years. You know, and that's crazy to assume that humans are not ingenious and can figure this stuff out. I mean, we've proven ourselves that we can be smart and dumb throughout our whole history. We obviously, like you said, we have.
Did that come out?
That was just noise.
It was the objection sound. Anyways, I'm trying a new soundboard, and it's clearly not doing so hot right now. So.
Did you see my I guess vlogs on Instagram where I was going off? I think it was on Halloween about that account. Wedding. Oh, right.
Yeah. By the way, congrats once again, Mike and Danielle Gray. What up? I don't even think they listen, but yeah. When this episode comes out a month from now, they'll be like, "Oh, right, we got married." Yeah, I'm triggered. I mean, I hate that. I hate it so much. The Colosseum was more complex, and the fact it's still standing and Roman concrete, but no one doubts the Romans did it. But stacking bricks on top of one another, it's freaking magic, apparently.
Yeah, I think the one that started it was another one. There was the Moai statues that have like they're angular looking, the big long faces like Squidward's house and SpongeBob with the little like square hat on it. And then there was something in Mexico City that looked just similar. And it was like, do you think there was evidence of a cross-cultural connection across the Pacific? And it's like, well, the more likely option is that people like to carve people, and it's easy to carve people that are shitty and angular. And like, it's like, not to say that the Moai are shitty because they're a marvel, but like, it's not the Mona Lisa, you know?
What is that
so like,
supposed to mean?
What I'm saying is,
it's that
easy.
Shit out real quick.
It's easy to take like a carving and like make a small anthropomorphic face into it, right?
So it's not abstract. It's not like something, you know, it's not well, you could say Van Gogh's doing Starry Night or whatever. It's not abstract, you know. You can get that art from looking at someone directly in front of you. You're not thinking about the cosmos or something.
Mm-hmm. And what I mean by not the Mona Lisa is like, it's not like the Mona Lisa is very unique, and it's like it's
a
how would I say
painting.
this? Like I just fucked myself up.
I'm just trying to track. Yeah,
it's a painting. Yeah, but like shaping someone's face and making it kind of square. And like it just there's only a few ways you can shape a human.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, a perfect white woman painted by a white man, just like our producer just put in the comments. Yeah, I'm with Chris on this one. You took an interesting example here, David.
Yeah.
See, here's an example of like me being like, I didn't mean any ill intentions by that. What I'm saying is that it's easy to carve like I don't know. Do you guys see what I'm kind of getting at here?
Yes, I do, but it's just so easy.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm fumbling my words. But I just need the picture up, right? Yeah, okay. This is, I'm digging myself a trench warfare up in this.
Oh, the walls are probably looking pretty good because you're an archaeologist.
Yeah. So anyway, Chris, Mona Lisa is an interesting example, a perfect white woman painted by a white man. Well, he was also a gay man, so we got that. Just saying, representing.
Representing. What do you mean you're representing?
Most textbooks aren't going to tell you that Da Vinci was gay, and it's good to give representation to.
Oh, I thought you were saying like representing. I thought you were saying like representing my community. I'm like, is this like an on air coming out?
Oh no, I'm sadly very straight. I've thought about it long and hard, So.
I get what you're saying.
What were we talking about?
You're saying that it's easier to like draw anthropomorphic things because you have examples of it around you. It's much easier to do that. Mona Lisa might have been a bad example because it's also a person. But I don't know. I
get what you're saying. It's just way too easy to. Yeah.
Right. The Mona Lisa has like detail and shadows and lighting, and there's like a Tuscan background behind it, right? Whereas the Moai statues and this figurine that was found in Mexico City, it's just like, it's like a doll, right? Like, I guess the one in Mexico City was about that size. But I don't remember what the point of it was. I'm just defending something wrong here. But the point being, it doesn't mean that these civilizations were connected and communicating and teaching each other how to make the same figurines, right? It just means that it's people like to carve humans out of objects.
Well, it's also like rock art throughout the world. I mean, the shapes are similar because, I mean, they're just carving I mean, there's only so many ways you can make a human: 2 legs, 2 arms, a head, a torso. Sometimes, maybe
a third leg periodically.
Yes, yeah. They get a little extracurricular sometimes.
Extracurricular. So to backtrack, that happened. I went on a whole like trying to do more vlogs and show my face. My friends were like, you got to show your personality more on your account. And I was like, fine. So I just went around my house in different like spots of my house and was talking about how, while I think Graham Hancock has well intentions, I think people like Graham Hancock are dangerous to archaeology not because they're presenting a different view. That's fine. Present all the side views you want. But when they start saying that people that I've worked with are hiding the truth and things like that, it creates a distrust in science, and it makes people think, well, archaeologists don't want me to believe this, and there's a camp for this and a camp for that. And therefore, this guy's not an archaeologist and doesn't have degrees and isn't in debt, like this person said, that he probably might be right. He's uncovering the truth. And it's like, no. And I was throwing all these like papers, all the things saying like, look at all this scientific research. When you have 90% of scientific research saying one thing and then one site comes out and says something different, and it's all over the news and like ESPN, which hashtag Surety Mastodon site. It doesn't change history, right? But when it's the one headline on Reddit you've seen about archaeology in 3 years, people are like, oh, that's crazy. Well, when I was in archaeology class, they told me the people were here 10,000 years ago. They were wrong, idiot. And it's like, no, they weren't wrong. It's just like there's a new theory that has little evidence to support it, but it gets blown up all over the news. So doing science communication, there's not really like science communication for dummies out there yet, you know? And like me and Amy and all these people that are doing this are kind of like doing their own thing and have Steve Irwin and Bill Nye to like follow along with. Like, I guess that's what they did. So I don't know. Not comparing myself to Steve Irwin, RIP.
No, you guys are definitely like pioneering this communication, because especially in like the anthropology and paleontology field, I'm not sure. I could be wrong. Amy's probably, if she's out there, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that this is done before, especially on a platform like Instagram, a platform like Twitter. You know, it's not. So it's, I mean, Bill Nye's shows are different because you have a guy who is doing science experiments somewhere, but you're trying to explain abstract anthropological and archaeological theories through Instagram is also much different and much more, I wouldn't say more difficult, but it's different than, what they were doing, you know? So you guys really don't, I mean, you have people who pioneer this stuff and who are trying to change this up, but
pioneers used to ride these babies for miles. Hashtag SpongeBob. Let's go to the next segment.
It's not a rock, it's a boulder.
Let's season 1, SpongeBob, 1998, 2002. I don't know. Next segment, Chris. Welcome back to segment 3 of a Life in Ruins podcast, episode 10. Are we at episode 11? I can't remember. Episode 10. We're going to talk about something that Carlton wanted to talk. I don't know. Carlton.
Thanks, NPR. Stereotypical NPR voice.
So, 2 things. One,
today we're going to talk about gender binaries among cabbage. That's literally like topics they have on there. At least that's what like Fox News says we talk about. So they. Carlton.
Yep. So one thing, back to Graham Hancock, there's a monetary reason for the stuff he posts. So everyone should keep that in mind. He says things to sell books. And then 2, it is a big problem in the sciences where the one fringe article gets all the press and all the defense, and the 99.99% of research that's against it is vilified. So that's what happened with me and David with that Instagram thing, where that one thesis can totally change this person's worldview, and anything me and David said was just anti-Indigenous knowledge, which is ridiculous. And then Graham Hancock, same way. He's really good at talking to people. So SciComm's really important. Also, fun life events happening in the Life in Ruin podcast. Connor is engaged.
Woo woo! Sorry, ladies.
Yeah, the most handsome man out of the 3 of us is taken.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think our poll got you as a handsome man.
No. I got the bad boy.
Oh, no, David.
You got no, David. David's poll. What did David get? I think
mine said delete his Instagram.
Let's not qualify this. I don't
categorizing
us as. But thank you. I'm engaged to a lovely lady who doesn't listen to this podcast.
She's more than lovely. She's amazing. Her name is. Should we say her name on the air? I don't know what her opinions are of being online.
Well, she doesn't listen to it, so just go ahead.
She's great. What was I going to say? What was the other life event? You said interesting life events. I had another one in mind.
No, I was just saying a life event, like just telling our listeners that Connor's off the market and is marrying a very amazing woman. Oh,
right. Yeah. In all of graduate school, I would be like, yeah, this is my friend Connor, or something like that. And they're like, oh, I've seen pictures of him. And I was like, yeah, of course you have.
I feel uncomfortable.
Take off his shirt.
Who's your friend?
Wow, this is fun.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway,
did we mention this? Did we mention this last time about the Plains Conference, Carlton? I thought we mentioned that on Instagram, but we didn't mention it on air.
Oh yeah.
You did a little winning something here.
I did. So, like an asshole, I told everyone live, recorded, that I was going to sweep the awards. I did not, but I did take one home, and it was a really cool. I didn't realize I had been submitted for it. My advisor, Dr. Bamforth, submitted me for an award, and like two things. It wasn't like, so they're like, so now it's time for the Native American Student Award. We only had one applicant this year. That's how she prefaced it. And I was like, that's a weird way to preface it. And so we'd like to congratulate, or they're like, so we'll bring up the committee head for Native American, blah, 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 blah. So he comes up and he's like, yeah, we only got one applicant. However, this was the most competitive one of the most competitive applications we've ever seen. His advisor wrote glowing reviews, and this kid's going somewhere. And I was like, oh, this guy sounds like an interesting cat. I should talk to him. And they were just like, Carlton Gover, get up here. And I was like, oh boy, that's my name. And I walked up there, got my award, got a nice fat check. And then Doug told me he was proud, and I was brought to tears because I was like, wow, I'm not a failure, not in his eyes. So that was a cool moment. Having Doug's recognition that I'm not a total fucking waste of time was more important than getting the award itself, because that man puts up with a lot of, if you think I'm intense on this podcast, this is 24/7, ladies and gentlemen. Like this is not.
That's the sound of Carlton blowing his own didgeridoo.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I will say, having your advisor say something remotely nice about you is like, especially when you're in the stress of grad school, can be like life-saving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I was just happy when my thesis advisor would remember my name and or my project. So, saying something nice about you is a total win.
It was great. No, it was a fun time. The other two, the students who won the paper and poster, did excellent work. I'm super stoked that they won. They deserve to win. It was really good research.
But Carlton, we're proud of you, man. You won that award, and it's a brilliant piece of work that you did.
Yeah. So it was a good time. It was a good dinner. Tim Pocketot spoke. He had some really cool research. I had a hot date.
Pocketot was there.
Yeah, he was our speaker. Had a hot date. That was fun.
Way to objectify.
And she was.
Jesus, dude.
Now this is my moment. God. Okay. Anyways, so Plains was great.
Mona Lisa.
Plains was good, and then I left from Plains to go down to Pawnee, Oklahoma, and then I presented my research in front of the nation, which was the most. I've never been more terrified of giving a talk in my life, because it was like, let me tell you people, my people, about my research about us. And I thought I was going to be, scalped and thrown in a dumpster like this idiot.
Okay. So back that up and don't say that again.
And they were like, and they liked it. They actually really liked it. And then they recorded it, and I didn't know they were recording it, or else I would have wore something nicer. And then they put it on the Pawnee Nation website, and I was really humbled that they liked it. A lot of people came up and talked to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
And they want to collaborate. They're like, hey, what do you know about this? So now I'm kind of realizing that I've moved into that area in the nation. Like, he knows what he's talking about. And so people came up and talked. It was a good time. Yeah. And I got to dance. It was a whole thing. It was a really weird weekend of academic presentations, posters, and being that professional side, and then going down to Pawnee, Oklahoma, and getting back with my tribal nation and doing the dances. Engaging all that.
I think you had mentioned before you went that you were going to Oklahoma too. So I thought when you were at the conference, then you randomly sent, hey guys, I'm on Indian time, which you spelled NDN or something like that. And then there was you sent us 3 random pictures of you with a bunch of indigenous people dressed up in your traditional clothing, and I was like, what the hell is he doing? I thought there was just how did you just time travel?
Yeah, and there was no contact in between there either. So it was Carlton was radio silence, and then he shows up in Pawnee, Oklahoma, and you're just like, what is going on?
No, we were trying to make we're trying to meet for the podcast to plan it out. And you said, I'm not even in Boulder yet. I'm on Indian time. And I was like, I don't even know how to suss that one out. I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah. So flew to Indiana, flew down to Oklahoma, and then Sunday I drove back with my cousin back to Boulder, and my cousin lives in Lafayette here in Colorado.
You left that detail out too. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we drove back, and it was a good time because he's the one that's been, so for my listeners, like I wanted to learn how to dance again to traditional, Pawnee dance. So Southern straight style. And so like him and his wife and my other cousins and brothers have been like extremely supportive and helping me out because I did it a bit when I was little, but then I grew up in Northern Virginia. It's a whole thing. So I'm getting my outfit together. So I went down to dance for the first time and reintroduced myself to the nation because I didn't grow up in Oklahoma, but I've always been a part of it. Drove back with my cousin for like 10 hours. It was amazing because he's older, much older than I am. So we got to talk about a lot of stuff. Stopped by the Sand Creek Massacre National Park on the way back, which was a cool moment. And then, I got back to Boulder. So it was like a really busy couple days. And that's just kind of been my life this semester. I feel like every month I'm doing something nuts.
Yeah, for like a
weekend.
It's like, that's a little bit of being like a PhD student, though. I feel like as a master's student, you do some stuff, but like a PhD student, you're expected to represent Boulder, do your thing.
Let the record show. A couple months ago, I was Skyping with Carlton about doing this podcast. I think it was before we started, and you were like, I was like, what are you up to today? And you're like, played Red Dead all day. And I was like, do you not have like, PhDing to do? And you're like, no, this shit's easy, dude. Like, this is fine. I'm playing Red Dead. And I was like thinking out loud, like either Carlton's a genius or he really doesn't understand the full scope of what he's gotten himself into. And then last week, when I Skyped Carlton to have a meeting with Connor, I think you weren't on yet. Carlton slams his head on the table, and I said, "You okay?" And he's like, PhD stuff, dude. I was like, oh, okay. Here's the sweet victory which I was looking for. Yeah, and, I feel for you, man. The school sucks.
I mean, it's been fun. All of this extra stuff is like what's gotten me because it's like I'm doing my master's thesis tour because a lot of people heard about it and they want me to talk. So like I, like an idiot, was like, I can do a talk a month. But like not like a talk a month in Colorado where I can be back in time. It's like, next month I have to drive to Kansas to the Pawnee State Historic Site and give a talk there. And like I don't know. It was like the same thing with Ukraine. It's like, I'll just spend 6.5 weeks in Ukraine and come back the day before school starts. That sounds reasonable. So I plan these things in event of time and then I like do them. And then I forget like, oh, right. I'm also taking 10 credit hours of PhD courses and teaching a class. And like, where's the time? And it's like, right. In the past at this point. So it's been fun. Like, I don't regret it, but like,
and you're also doing like a podcast every 2 weeks too. Then we were like a couple months ago, we should do 2 episodes a month. And then,
well, after we realized, like we said, I agreed to doing that. I was like, oh yeah, I did promise that guy I'd write 3 chapters for a book we're writing together by December. I totally forgot about that. Got to do that. Brian, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. I'll get that together.
No, but
you mentioned what?
No, it's been manageable. Like it's not bad. I just let myself. It's just like I usually don't have days off anymore. So that will get to me. And like when I was gone for that wedding, I was gone for like 3 days and came back. Like,
you love what you do.
Yeah, I know, right? So, but it's been fruitful. It's a fruitful experience. I enjoy it. I get to travel a lot more. People seem to like me and what I research, except on Instagram. But
how's your mental health been holding up? Because I know, like, as Amy mentioned, as you go through these grad school and stress, do you feel yourself going up and down through that?
Well, I still go. I go to CAPS every week. CAPS is Counseling and Psychiatric Services here at Boulder, which is free. Yeah. Cat. No, it's like, it's like,
PT, right. Figured S.
Yeah.
I'm smart.
So, yeah. So I still go once a week. I go for an hour and it's good. Like I have a good support system. Like I have this podcast keeps me sane.
Awesome.
So I have this and then I have a good, like last year was just a weird year for me. But this year it's much better, much more like I've gotten to know the other grad students a lot more. We hang out. I'm traveling a lot. I have you guys.
Yeah, you're like in the city, so you start making friends. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I think
and plus, like I'm still riding high on
Jewel smoke.
No, I was talking over Connor. I didn't want to.
I was just saying. I think it's interesting. I don't know if David, you feel the same way, but after graduating with your master's, there's this weird stage in your life where you just, I've said this before, you stare over the abyss and try to figure out what the next step is, because in school you're going through.
Yeah, I spent 6 months of it laying on my parents' couch being like, what do I do now? Staying at friends' houses, dude. Yeah, it's an abyss for sure. I lucked out.
Yeah, and I forgot. I love my job and I love doing what I do, but being in the same place 5 days a week for 52 weeks is just it's kind of crazy, because you're just like in Carlton, you were mentioning like the PhD life, the master's life, you're kind of going around doing stuff, you're kind of always busy. But now I have to think about my thoughts, acknowledge my feelings.
It's almost like changing from a very mobile lifestyle to a sedentary lifestyle might have been a bad idea for humans. #agriculture.
That grainy boy.
Yeah. Yeah, because after, what is it? After,
did you guys get it? I called it back to earlier in the podcast when I said #agriculture.
Yeah, dude. It was good. That was good. Yeah, agriculture sucks, because then you get taxes, then you get the bow and arrow, and it just goes downhill. Arthritis, osteoporosis. It's not a fun time. Agriculture sucks. Fuck agriculture. Screw agriculture. Yeah. We have cussed way less on this episode, by the way.
I think it's all been you. Guys, I miss giving lectures. That's my favorite part about school, was just riffing, giving lectures. But I need to find out ways to do that again. Is Rich still teaching at CSU?
Yeah, I think so. Come to Boulder, dude. Come give a talk at Boulder, and we'll go hang out.
Oh, yeah, he's at Wyoming now.
And plus, you have to come to Boulder anyways to do your campus interview, because you're applying here.
Oh, God.
He's announcing it on air, by the way. This is his formal announcement.
We're just letting you know that, David. Yeah, this is his formal
announcement. I already came out as straight today, guys. I don't know if I can do another big one like that. Can I come give a lecture there in February? Can you have me come to give a dog domestication lecture?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. All right. I'm
in charge of that stuff. I'm the president of the whatever anthro grad student BS that we have here. I can make anything happen. You want a reception? I can add a reception to your talk.
You can make it gluten-free. I'm in.
It's Boulder. Of course it's gluten-free.
Vegan.
Yeah, all we eat here is kelp. It's vegan. It's natural. There's no gluten. Yeah.
I have been vegetarian for 2 months now. I just decided to try it.
Fuck off the podcast.
I kind of dig it. I should say pescatarian. I had shrimp twice. One because my mom put it in soup when I was having surgery that time, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you weren't eating it." And I was like, "Well, it's meat." But apparently pescatarian.
I would say shout out to my fiance. She's vegan, and she keeps me skinny, so I appreciate that. I don't know how you feel, David. Do you feel good being a vegetarian?
I have a lot of, this is weird to say on Archaeology podcast, a lot of GI issues that are now totally fixed. So it might just be psychosomatic. I don't know, but I'll feel good. I also feel better that I'm not just eating slaughtered beef.
Humans have never done that.
Anyway, well, I think we're off topic here, but yeah.
So you know what, I'll announce this. I'll go vegetarian.
Hey.
You're gonna go vegetarian from now.
I'll go vegetarian. We'll see. We'll just track I can't talk. We will track the progress of my vegetarianism on every episode from now on. And we'll just do that.
It's cool, man. Instead of going home and cooking chicken and then making a salad, I just make the salad. It's easier.
One exception though, if it's hunted meat, because I have hunted meat, so so if it has to be killed so if it's hunted.
I respect that.
I live very close to a nuclear plant. I'm not hunting stuff around here.
Yeah, so meat's off the table, boys.
Well, how are we gonna end this? I think we got a few more. What did we learn today? This was a South Park episode. That's right. #agriculture.
Yeah, as we're talking about being vegetarian, #agriculture sucks.
You could forage tomatoes, right?
No, it's like nightshade.
What's up?
Aren't tomatoes a kind of nightshade? You know who we should ask? We should ask the girl that roasted us on Instagram.
Inca?
She would know.
Feel free to write us at lifeandruinspodcast@gmail.com.
Oh yeah, please give us reviews. Like, send us reviews on iTunes. We got some good ones.
You're gonna ask them to review us after this episode.
Tell us how much you hate us.
Follow us on Instagram. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at A Life in Ruins Podcast. Follow David's Ethnosynology. Connor's is spiral_J CJ
spiral
Stout.
out _CJ. CJ Stout? Is that my beer that I make?
CJ Stout. And then mine is Pawnee _archaeologist. So you should follow those. We do good stuff. We had some good stories last week when I did that thing where I asked the audience about stuff. That was really specific. But it was a good story.
Good story, bro. And on that amazing story,
cool story,
we're
bro.
going to end this beautiful podcast.
Oh, boys. If you could live a life in ruins, would you do it again?
I'd probably be an accountant, if I'm being honest.
I was going to put
A little more lucrative.
a hard no on that one.
I was going to say I would be in marketing.
I'd probably do zoology, and I'd equally be as poor and sad. So
I love how we get to episode 10 before we asked that ourselves. We had 9 guests. We're like, yeah, of course we do it. And we get to us 3 like, no. Okay. So, oh my God. Yeah. Thanks, listeners. Follow us. And yeah, that was a horrible. Connor, take it from here. God damn it.
language, dude. You tried 0 effort today. All right,
I'm going vegetarian. Thanks for listening to A Life in Ruins podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Life in Ruins Podcast, and you can also email us at alifeinruinspodcast@gmail.com.
And remember, make sure to bring your archaeologists in from the cold and feed them beer. Boys, gentlemen of the podcast, what song did some Paleo-Indian groups sing after they broke their points trying to flute it?
Oh, I kind of want to think about this after they broke their points trying to flute it. So, I don't know. I want to say to the left, but that is so wrong.
Okay.
Hard in the Paint by Waka Flocka.
What is it, Connor?
Folsom Point Blues. Like Folsom Prison.
That's a good one.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. I like it. I like that. I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan. I'm gonna put that on my wall.
I wrote some lyrics.
Did you? Okay, you have to tell us the lyrics.
I hear the mammoth coming. It's rolling down the bend. And I ain't seen a church source since I don't know when. I'm stuck in a Folsom prison without a single point.
Thank you, Connor, so much. Okay. All right, everybody.
Exclusively hunt bison.
We're out. Cut it, Chris. We're good.
This show is produced by the Archaeology Podcast Network, Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in Reno, Nevada at the Reno Collective.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.